Hello and welcome to our virtual event. This is Aaron Goldberg, contributing editor for IDG, and I'm going to be your moderator today. Moving data to the cloud can be difficult using first-generation services and solutions. There are a number of drawbacks, including the creation of new silos, lack of data management features or capabilities, and a lack of mobility. However, with a new generation of cloud-native data management solutions, such as the latest offering from NetApp, these issues have been effectively eliminated. With new capabilities that dramatically improve performance and support consistent data management across cloud platforms, it is now possible to truly embrace hybrid cloud and utilize cloud services sooner and much more effectively. To help us learn more about this critical topic, we're fortunate to have an expert speaker joining us today. Jeff Whitaker is Senior Manager, Cloud Product Marketing at NetApp. He's going to help us understand how you can move forward with cloud services more quickly and more effectively. But before we start, just a couple things about our event. First, you can download a copy of the presentation, and that's in the resources area. And I think it's a best practice if you're an attendee for three very important reasons. First, it's a great place to take notes as we go along. Second, it's a persistent reminder of this event that you can use in the weeks and months to come. Third, and I think critical for your organization, is it's something you can share with your peers when you discuss this topic or look at potential projects in this area. And while you're there, there are other valuable informational assets that are in that resources area of your console. I'd like to thank our sponsor, NetApp, for making today's event possible, because without their support, we don't get to bring you this great information. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate the introduction. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what Aaron already mentioned, which is moving and taking advantage of cloud environments and some of the things that we run into when we actually make that move. And right now, so the cloud offerings that are out there, some of the things are not meeting the requirements that you have, especially around business-critical capabilities, such as performance, availability, scalability, and data management. Areas that you've became accustomed to having when you're in your data center environment. When you go to the cloud, you don't have everything that you need in that space, as well as native cloud service integration. So being able to operate in a way that you expect to with your cloud provider. And then lastly, how do you deal with a hybrid scenario where you've got data in your data center as well as data inside the cloud? Being able to do that in a cohesive way to avoid the silos that you get when you start, moving your data sets and moving your application environments around to different locations.
So, Jeff, how does NetApp Cloud Volume solution help us move to the cloud more quickly and with better results?
So NetApp Cloud Volumes is a cloud-native service that allows you to bring file environments, your applications that require file, into the cloud and do it with really an unprecedented level of performance. We can deliver the solution that you need so that you can bring more of your applications to the cloud sooner. So going from months or even years that it may have taken you in the past to doing it in a very fast and efficient method today. And one of the big things here, too, is that we can support even your legacy applications without having to go through, a re-architecture or redesign in order to move that data to the cloud. And you get consistent data management from your data center. You get consistent management to the cloud. And you can do this quickly. You can deploy up to 100 terabytes in as little as 8 seconds, and very simple. And then you shift your expenses, the typical what you would expect in a cloud environment, going to an OpEx type model. But yet you bring along data protection. You bring along a capability to clone data sets. So when you're talking about your development environments or your DevOps type solutions, you can actually speed those up to really reduce your development pipeline and have faster releases. And then replicate across geographies. One of the big things when you're talking about the cloud is being able to address, the providers themselves have multiple locations out there, but being able to move that data from region to region or even from the data center to the cloud or from the cloud to the data center, we bring that with Cloud Volumes.
Having a consistent solution for data management is essential. Does your offering run across multiple clouds?
Aaron, yes, it does. We actually run across AWS as well as Google and through a first-party service in Azure called Azure NetApp Files. We can support all three of the major cloud providers that are out there today. And on top of that, we also support different ways that you may want to deploy data management in the cloud itself. Do you want a management environment that looks a lot like what you do in your data center? We have a solution called Cloud Volumes ONTAP, which gives an experience similar to what one would expect a storage experience in the cloud environment. And then we have Cloud Volumes Service, which is actually a complete service that we take care of all the headache. You don't have to worry about ever updating or upgrading resources in the cloud. We take care of all that for you. All you do is go in and choose a capacity, a performance level, and move forward. So to build on that a little bit more, we can support more of the applications when going to the cloud. So when you're migrating your enterprise applications, you have a consistent data type that you can do from your data center into the cloud. We also accelerate, with a high-performance environment that this is built on, we can accelerate your analytics environment. We've seen up to 20x performance for some of our customers that have already deployed Cloud Volume Service in AWS. And then as well, your DevOps experience, which I mentioned before, really speeding up that pipeline. And then database applications as well. The performance piece of a database environment is usually a critical component when you're actually looking at how you deploy. So being able to have a very high performance data and service below the actual application allows you to bring some of those bigger database and business critical type applications into the cloud. And we've done this based on NetApp environment where we've had 300,000 customers in the past that have relied upon this for data center environments, but yet bring that experience and 25 years of file service experience to the cloud along with it. So really giving you an environment that you can be assured is going to give you what you would expect when you're talking about files in the cloud. And then we bring multi-protocol. So when you're talking about moving your applications, it's your Linux applications, it's your Windows applications, or both from the same data sets. So making sure that you have a solution that can solve all your file requirements when you move to the cloud, and then do it with feature sets that you would expect. Encryption at rest, protecting without impacting performance. So being able to take a snapshot of your data without slowing down the application that it's relying on. And then as well, workspace cloning to give you those faster development deployment processes. And this is really what's driving a lot of that piece that allows you to move those applications to the cloud months or even years faster than you would have if you had to re-architect.
Well, Jeff, can you tell us a bit more about how the Cloud Volume Service works?
Yes, so the Cloud Volume Service is a true cloud-native service. You actually go into the cloud provider that you utilize the service, and you buy it from them. You go to the AWS Marketplace, or you go to the Google Cloud Marketplace, and you launch the Cloud Volume Service from there, and we take care of the rest. There's no longer any worry about managing the setup of an environment or upgrading the actual infrastructure below it. A lot of times when people are moving to the cloud and they need files, they've got to build their own service. They've got to go use the compute, and they've got to use the storage resources and then run an NFS file service on top of it. That stuff all has to be managed. We take care of all that for you with the service that we offer. So all you do is really come in and say, hey, I need capacity, I need performance, and maybe a protection model associated with it. And that's about it. We do everything else, and then make sure that you get the capabilities that you need. And then you can also adjust that on the fly as you go, too. We give you a lot of flexibility when it comes to deploying file storage in the cloud.
How does this solution work within a company's current cloud application workflows? Can you give us a little detail on that?
So when we're talking about workflows, the key that we really focused on was being simple. And when you're deploying a data service or a storage service underneath your application environment, you want to make sure that it's just simple and easy so that the users of the actual applications, the application guys, the development guys, can actually go in and deploy what they need without having to have a lot of domain experience in the storage space. So this diagram really shows and exemplifies how simple it is. Create your volume. You go to the Cloud Volumes window. You create your volume. We'll show you a demo of that later. You move your data set over to the new volume, you connect your application, and then you deploy. I mean, it is really that simple. It's about moving the applications, getting them running, and then just a few simple steps, you can have that running in a file environment. And then just to put a point on this, we have a customer that actually ran a cloud volume environment, and they tweeted specifically about how simple it was. The customer said specifically, I just created a new cloud volume, created a VM instance, and mounted the volume on that instance from my iPhone on a plane. So that tells you really how simple things can be when deploying a cloud volume environment in your cloud infrastructure. So this diagram here really shows you what it looks like today for most people that have to go and deploy a file environment in the cloud. It comes down to going out, choosing the resources that they need, a compute instance backed by a capacity, whether it's a EC2 compute plus an EBS volume to connect to that, and then running an NFS server on top of it. Then once you get that up and running, now you can build out your file shares for your data sets. Well, what happens when you do this? You actually you're trying to deploy an application or you're trying to do a development environment, and you've just brought in a new layer of complexity. You've built an actual data service on your own that you need to now manage. You need to control. You need to deal with all the upgrades and any patching or any details that come along with it, because you needed file services in the cloud, whether it's NFS for Linux or whether it's SMB for Windows. You had to do something so you could support all this. And with this, you're really trading your physical data center space for a virtual data center in the cloud. I mean, you're doing the same type of stuff that you're probably trying to get away from when you actually make the move to the cloud.
Well, Jeff, performance is important. I'd say a critical issue as the amount of data expands geometrically in most organizations. How is it possible to ensure performance for data in the cloud?
So when you're deploying a file environment in the cloud, Cloud Volumes brings you a very simple and high-performance solution compared to what you had to do in the past, which is build your own environment. We actually bring in everything with the service. You just bring in your file data sets, and you run them on a Cloud Volume, you connect your applications to it, and you deploy. We do everything else. But the actual service is built on an environment that gives multiple service levels from a basic performance level all the way up to what we call an extreme performance level that allows you to run your applications at an extremely fast speed. And to put this as an example of what a customer has done, we have a customer that actually was deploying an analytics environment in the cloud with their files that they had to analyze. And they built their infrastructure. They scaled it out as much as they possibly could to get the best performance. And when they dropped their data set onto a Cloud Volume, they got 20x performance benefit immediately. So the infrastructure that we built and the environment that we built to serve files to you is giving you a performance level well beyond what you could have accomplished in the past. And this doesn't even account for some of the savings that go along with it. You know, you talk about building your own environment and all those details around managing infrastructure that you probably didn't want to manage in the first place. You no longer have to deal with that. There's no more patching. There's no more updating. There's no more upgrading. You just deploy your data set on a Cloud Volume, and we handle the rest.
Jeff, it really is an interesting solution. I think one that meets today's and tomorrow's needs. So I think we're going to run a demo here. Yes, we're going to run a demo and take a look at how it actually works in the real world.
Welcome to this quick video walkthrough of NetApp Cloud Volumes for AWS. We're going to walk through creating brand new volumes, changing the size of volumes, mounting volumes in your Linux instances in your AWS compute environment, and moving data from your on-premises environment into the cloud. We already selected a link in your AWS Marketplace, so we're guided directly to NetApp Cloud Central for configuration, which you can also find at cloud.netapp.com. So once we're logging into NetApp Cloud Central, we'll see the Cloud Volumes configuration page, And there's really only this one page that we need to go through to create our first volume. You can see here that two volumes already exist, NetApp Big Data and Machine Learning. And there's this big green button at the top to create a new volume. Let's take a look at the Machine Learning volume. This is only 1 terabyte in size. Let's say your project is really successful, you need more data. We can now change this from 1 terabyte to 3 terabyte. With one click, and it's done. It's already increased in size to 3 terabytes. Next, let's actually create a new volume. So click the green button, Create New Volume. First, we're going to provide a name for this volume. We're going to call it NetApp Jenkins. We're going to use this volume later for some DevOps integration testing. You can select different regions that are available to you. And then we can select a volume path. Now the volume path, we're actually going to provide you with a number of different choices. You can select that refresh button there on the side if you don't like that particular path that's being automatically created for you. But you can also override those path choices and provide your own path. In this example, we're going to choose NetApp Cloud Volumes. Now this volume could be created from scratch, so it's empty, or it can be created from an existing snapshot. So data that you've already ingested previously in other volumes are now available for you to create as a clone. You can select a service level, and now you can also select the size of the volume, in this case 4 terabytes. The next step is to configure your export policies. You can limit access to your volume to clients that come from a certain IP address or IP range. You can select between read-only or read and write access, and you can choose between NFS v3 and NFS v4. Next, you can also choose your snapshot policy. In this case, we're going to choose a weekly policy. We're going to keep 3 snapshots. We're going to take those snapshots on a Sunday and a Wednesday at 30 minutes past midnight. Now create this volume, and you can see in just a few seconds the volume's created and done. A 4 terabyte volume's created just like that. Now next I'm going to walk you through how to mount this volume into your existing compute instances. In this case, we're going to mount it into a Linux instance. And if you look at your volume description, you see that little question mark on the side. This will provide you with all the necessary mount instructions. You will see how to install an NFS client if it hasn't been installed already, as well as the 2 commands that you need to properly mount your file system. Now let's switch into the command line once we've copied the make directory command. So we're in the command line now. We're going to SSH into the Linux instance that's running inside AWS. Once you're logged in, we're going to switch to the super user context. And now we're going to insert that make directory command that we just copied from the user interface. So directory has been created. Now we're going to go and copy the mount command. We're inserting the mount command here. And the mount is complete. Now we're going to change into the directory, and we're going to create a 1 gigabyte file. This is a great way to test the functionality, make sure that everything works as expected. It really only takes just a few seconds to create a 1 gigabyte file, and it's already done. So it was created at about 118 megabytes per second. So now you have a volume created, you have it mounted, we created a file for testing purposes. So next we're going to go into the volume and look at some additional options. So we see the description of the mount target. We can create manual snapshots if we want. That's a great idea to do that before you're making changes to your data in the volume. You can see the export policy, make any changes there. You see your snapshot policy that we discussed previously. But now we also have that tab for sync. Sync is how you get your data from on-premises into your new volume in the cloud. So we're going to create a new relationship here. And this relationship will actually pull data from your on-premises data source, your on-premises host that you can find through your VPC connection in AWS. So we're going to identify the host by IP address, and we're using the export here. And as a target, we're going to select our volume in the AWS cloud. We're going to create the relationship, and it's done. Now the synchronization is running. We can now turn on auto sync, which means that you can keep your data in the cloud and on premises synchronized with each other so that updates will show up on the other side. You can do this with a daily or an hourly schedule. And that's really all there is to it. You see 3 files have already been processed. Now 5 files have been processed. So depending on file sizes and the amount of data, that can take a little bit of time. If you don't want to do this, if you don't want to migrate data over the network, if you prefer to ship physical equipment that's similar to AWS Snowball, we can do that as well. But that's really all there is to NetApp Cloud Volumes for AWS. It's really simple to set up and configure. We hope you will enjoy this great new service. Thank you.
Well, that's a really interesting demo and really kind of puts a fine point on what we've been talking about. Jeff, I'm going to turn it back over to you now.
Thanks, Aaron. So when it comes to file services, when it comes to your file needs in the cloud, Cloud Volumes offers a cloud-native file service environment with extreme performance, low latency, fast, everything that you need to really drive the performance of your analytics environments, the performance of your database environments, or even those applications that you bring into the cloud that you couldn't do before. So the best way to see this, the best way to move forward with a file environment in the cloud is to go ahead and give it a try. So you can sign up and try Cloud Volumes for AWS today at the link here, netapp.com/AWS, and it'll give you an opportunity to go and try it for yourself. See how your applications run in this environment, and immediately get the benefits of what Cloud Volumes offers.
Thank you, Jeff. Just great information. Unfortunately, it looks like we've come to the end of our allotted time for this webcast. Again, huge thank you to Jeff for his time today and taking us through this really, really critical and frankly, game-breaking solution. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, NetApp, for their support for today's event. And, of course, thank you to those of you in our audience for joining us today. We know you have a very busy day. We truly appreciate the fact that you make us part of that busy day. For IDG, this is Aaron Goldberg, signing off.